Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Welcome to another episode of Haqiqatjou, where we discuss religion and politics, the two least controversial subjects. As always, I'm your host, Daniel Haqiqatjou, and today we have a lot to catch up on, a lot to discuss. I know I haven't had a show in quite a while, a couple of weeks, and I'm sorry for that. I've just been very busy with some long-term projects, some exciting projects that some of them are for later in this year, some of them are for next year. And that's always the challenge if you want to be able to do something very substantial, like write a book or launch a major new project. You have to take time off of the regular kind of schedule of streaming and content creation. So it's a give and take, and that's why probably for the next 6 months or so, I'm going to be a little less frequent with the shows. I'll still try to cover important developments with the war in Palestine, the situation in Iran, imminent threat of a new war with Israel attacking Iran with the help of the United States. So we're going to talk a lot about that today. We're going to talk about the peace plan a little bit that Donald Trump has proposed, and seemingly Muslim countries have signed onto it, including Egypt, Turkey, Saudi, and others. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the takeover of TikTok by basically a hardcore Zionist in the United States. So this is something that is really serious for social media and the future of social media, being able to criticize Israel, being able to criticize Zionists. This is something that we might have taken for granted for the past 2 years. It seems like they want to take away our ability to criticize Israel on social media, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on TikTok, whether it's on X, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, etc. So we want to talk about that and what has precipitated that. Like, why now? Clearly, the Zionists have been aware that they've been slammed on social media, and so many people have really woken up to what Israel is doing. Not only to the Palestinians, but in other countries. What are Jewish Americans doing in America to support a genocide or to promote other policies that are contrary to the interests of the American people? Like, so many people are waking up. So many Americans are waking up, and that's the threat that Zionists have recognized, Jews have recognized, and now they want to clamp down. We'll talk about what has precipitated that in this show as well. So a lot of material. There's also a clip that is now being pushed by Zionists of Ilhan Omar. Remember Ilhan Omar? This U.S. Congresswoman who was pushed down our throats as Muslims around the world. Like, we have to accept this bold, brave, hijabi Muslim woman. Like, oh, she's our hope. She's our leader. We have to all bow down to Ilhan Omar because she's so amazing. She's such a boss queen. And the compassionate imams, the Dawah mafia, whether locally or globally, we're pushing Ilhan Omar, and she's still saying the same stupid trash. She's still bringing shame onto Muslims, creating problems for Muslims. So we're gonna look at this clip from Ilhan Omar that was recently put out and react to it, inshallah, and analyze it. So a lot of content today. And I was thinking about the topic of this imminent war with Iran. Israel is going to be attacking Iran, as we predicted, as everyone predicted, basically. The war that was in June, the 12-day war, that was just the opening salvo. There is going to be more conflict, more war, and because the job is not done, according to Israel. regime change has not been completed, according to Israel. That's the whole purpose of wanting to go to war with Iran, not to necessarily take out their nuclear weapons. That's a pretext for attacking Iran. But the main reason is to eliminate Iran so that the Middle East will be fully secure for Israel. There will be no one left to oppose Israel in whatever that it wants to do in the entire Middle East. That's the whole goal for the Zionists. So it was inevitable. The 12-day war, Israel took a lot of losses. They took a huge impact to their infrastructure, to their economy. They couldn't sustain it. They're running out of these Iron Dome missiles, the THAAD missile system. So they had to take a break, and now they're ready for round two. So that's, as I was reflecting on that, this situation that is going to come at any day, because the U.S. is already moving all kinds of jets, all kinds of carrier strike groups towards the Middle East, towards Iran, including at least 2 B-2 bombers, the same B-2 stealth bombers that were used by America to strike Fordow and to strike the underground nuclear facilities of Iran. Those same types of bombers are now moving towards the Middle East. And guess where they're being stationed? They're being stationed in the Gulf, in these Muslim countries. U.S. forces getting ready to attack Iran. As I was reflecting on that situation, the question that I have as a Muslim, the question that many other Muslims have, is that why are we in this situation? Like, why are we constantly on the back foot? Why are we suffering from these kinds of losses? Why are we seeing the Palestinians, our brothers and sisters, in the worst situation of genocide? And there's not a single real Muslim believer that is not affected every day by the thought of our Palestinian brothers and sisters being genocided, and we are helpless. We are weak. We cannot do anything, it seems. So I want to reflect on that. What has caused this situation? I know that we have a general idea, like a generic idea, based on hadith, for example, where the Prophet ﷺ says that we suffer from wahan. We're like the foam on the sea, weak. And it's because we suffer from wahan. We love the dunya and we hate death. We're just so dunya focused, so dunya obsessed. This is what is causing our weakness. But what else? I want to talk about that, inshallah, based on the Quran in this stream as well, because this is the prime question. Like, if we want to understand how we can change our situation, we have to look at the guidance of the Quran, because this is not something new for Muslims. It's not something new for the nations, the prophets that have been sent by Allah to guide humanity. It's because in many cases they were being oppressed. People were being oppressed, and they needed guidance from the prophets to show them the direction that they need to change their situation. So we need to talk about that. We need to reflect on that, inshallah. In this episode, we'll start to do some of that, bi'idhnillah. So don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter. The link for the newsletter is in the description below. And participate in the chat. I'm looking at the chat. You can submit your super chats if you want to prioritize your comment. There's also this top fans functionality that YouTube has added, so we can see whoever engages the most with the video, they get ranked at the top. So I'll try to remember to read off the top fans at the end of the stream, so stay tuned for that. And also, I wanted to, one of the big projects that I'm working on that I want to share with you and encourage you to join me and to participate is, inshallah, in December, towards the end of December, we're going to have a marriage retreat. A marriage retreat in Turkey, inshallah. So this is like a full retreat where it's for Muslim couples, married couples, or if you're single, or if you're divorced, and you want to understand What is traditional Islamic marriage? What does it mean to be a traditional husband and wife according to the Quran and Sunnah? Because what we know and what I've been railing against for the past 10 years, over a decade since I've been doing dawah, is that marriage has been hijacked. Islamic marriage has been hijacked because of this feminization, the pushing of feminist talking points, feminist ideology, just taking feminism and wrapping it in a hijab and, oh, now it's Islam. This is the product that has been sold to you on social media, at your masjid in many cases, at these Islamic conferences. This has been a psyop from the Dawah Mafia to take feminism, like modern feminist understandings of marriage and gender relations, and push it onto the Muslim community in order to social engineer the Muslim community. So now many have realized this. The psyop has been exposed. Many Muslims have woken up. Not all, unfortunately, and maybe not even most, but many have woken up. And they have a question. Well, okay, if that's not what Islamic marriage is, then what is Islamic marriage? I want to know. I really want to understand this. And if these preachers, the Dawah Mafia, these compassionate imams aren't teaching from the Quran and Sunnah, or they're manipulating the Quran and Sunnah, then explain how. Explain how and give me the true picture. And obviously, I've put out material over the years, classes over the years, and even at Al-Asna Institute, my institute, where we have these courses that you can take, there is a wife school that is mainly focused on women. And there's been so many women who have taken this course, and some men as well, and they say it's amazing. And it's taught by my wife, Khalid. And she teaches, it's about 40 hours. It's like a massive, or maybe 30 hours of content where she's teaching what it means to be a traditional wife. So if you can't go to Turkey for this retreat, you can always take that online. That's available for a nominal fee. You can take that. And that's at alasna.org. But what about the husband side? So I'm developing a husband school that will also be presented. And so we're co-teaching, myself and my wife, Khalid. And it's going to be segregated. The sisters are going to be with my wife. The brothers are going to be with me. And we're going to teach you things that haven't been really taught. I don't see any figure, any of the female figures, actually, any of these, influencers, hijabi influencers that will talk and teach you these details. And for husband school as well, we're going to get into depth on what to look out for. So not only in the process of getting married, like what are red flags, what is the correct approach to get married, but also when you're married, how to avoid common pitfalls, how to really imbibe being a proper Islamic husband in the model of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. So I'm very excited for it. It's going to be very in-depth, and it'll be enjoyable because it's going to be in Turkey. It's a very nice environment in Istanbul, in the city. So please, if you can, join us. And the way that you can, here's the website, The Marriage Reset is what it's called. And I put a link to this in the description, Global Ummah Retreats. Global Ummah Retreats. The link is in the description. You can click on it. You can check it out. There are more details. There are more speakers than just me and my wife, Khalid. You also have Mufti Tufail, for example, who's also an excellent scholar. And he will be there to answer fiqh questions and also give his perspective, inshallah, and many other speakers as well. So 4-day marriage revival retreat in Istanbul, fully segregated, December 25th to the 28th. And there's also a promotion right now for women. So if you're an unmarried woman and you want to take advantage of this, there's a special offer. Your mahram comes for free, because we know that Muslim women, single women, can't be traveling alone, or even married women, they can't be traveling alone, especially internationally. So your mahram, who is going to come with you, it could be your father, it could be your brother, it could be even your son if you're divorced. They can come for free. So check it out. And there's also going to be like a matchmaking function as well that we'll have in that retreat as well that the organizers are setting up. Global Ummah retreats. There's a FAQ as well. So that's the first thing that I want to inform you of. There's also another thing, another link that's in the description is for DebateCon, hosted by Modern Day Debates. It's going to be happening in Nashville in mid-November. The link to the event where you can purchase tickets is in the description below. And I'm going to be facing two Christians. One is Andrew Wilson. There's going to be a debate, Islam versus Christianity, which is better for society. So that's going to be one of the marquee events for this DebateCon, and I'd love to see you there in Nashville, Tennessee. So go check out the details, see if you can make it, get your tickets. There's also going to be a second debate. We're not sure who is going to debate. We don't know that. We're not sure of the topic, but that's being set up as well. So there's going to be two. I'll be doing two debates. And whenever I go to on-location debates, any Muslim that's there, we spend time together. We usually go have a nice meal together as a group. I answer questions, I talk and enjoy my time in suhba, companionship with those who are taking time to come and watch the debate. So I look forward to that, inshallah. Okay, so now let's get to the main topics that we want to discuss today. So the first topic is that I think we should talk about is something that I posted on with Benjamin Netanyahu. And Benjamin Netanyahu is talking about the war. He's talking about the war that Jews, Zionists are engaged in, and what needs to happen to win this war. So listen to this.
To fight back. How do we fight back? Our influencers. I think you should also talk to them if you have a chance. To that community, they're very important. And secondly, we're going to have to use the tools of battle. You know, the weapons change over time. You can't fight today with swords. That doesn't work very well. Okay, and you can't fight with cavalry. That doesn't work very well. And you have these new things, you know, like drones, things like that. I won't get into that. But we have to fight with the weapons that apply to the battlefields in which we're engaged. And the most important ones are the social media. And the most important purchase that is going on right now is class?
Followers.
TikTok. TikTok, number one. And I hope it goes through because it can be consequential. And the other one, what's the other one that's most important? X. Exactly. Very good. And, you know, so we have to talk to Ilhan. He's not an enemy. He's a friend. We should talk to him.
Okay. So I shared this. There were some details revealed by WikiLeaks that Israel is paying $7,000 per post. So some of these Zionist influencers, this is the kind of money that we're talking about. Thousands of dollars for posting pro-Israel content. And what Netanyahu is describing is this eighth front of the war. So oftentimes when Netanyahu is going on podcasts, he's talking about the eight front war, the seven front war. And when you're talking about seven fronts, he means Gaza, obviously, the West Bank. He means Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, and Iran. Those are the seven fronts. And then the eighth front is social media, the fight on social media. So you know how there's all these different losers, Muslim losers, whether they're Wahhabis or sectarians or whatever. They say, oh, social media does nothing. If you really want to do something, you know, just pick up a gun and run at the Israeli border. That's what you can really do to help the Palestinians. Just take up, you know, some kind, you know, how are you going to get to the Israeli border? Don't know. How are you going to get a weapon that you'll be able to get to the Israeli border? Don't know. But just that's what we need to do. We all need to be like a biomass that just floods, you know, because apparently that's really going to work. Meanwhile, the flotilla, the latest flotilla from Greta Thunberg and these activists, they're trying to break the blockade, breach the blockade, and they're getting apprehended as we speak. You know, the IDF is catching them and confiscating their ships, and they're just going to be in jail and then sent back. So, I mean, what is really the use of that? Like, okay, yeah, it creates some PR, I guess. Some awareness is creating some global awareness. So I'm not saying it's completely useless, but it's not freeing the Palestinians. It's not stopping the genocide, is my point. But it's interesting how Netanyahu himself recognizes that social media is a major battlefield for Israel's cause. So those who say that posting on social media has no benefit, either you're ignorant or you're actually one of these bots, one of these Jewish Zionist bots that's trying to get Muslims to stop speaking about the genocide, to stop criticizing Israel, to stop criticizing Judaism, to stop investigating the Jewish texts in order to uncover the teachings within the Torah and the Talmud that are being used by Benjamin Netanyahu, Bezalel Smotrich, Itamar Ben-Gvir to justify their non-stop killing of Muslims, not just in Gaza, but in Lebanon, in Syria, in Yemen, etc. So this is a battlefield that we as Muslims, we have to participate in. We have to participate in, and it can be as simple as posting. It can be as simple as posting the most effective content that you can post, in my opinion, against Israel is to post about Judaism, to post about what their Jewish texts actually teach, to post about the Talmud. I mean, this is the most effective, in my opinion, along with other things. Other things are also effective, like sharing the images of these starving children in Palestine, videos of the brutality of the IDF, sharing photos and videos of the IDF wearing women's underwear and parading around, playing with children's toys. Like, all of this is so critical in winning the battle of hearts and minds. And we should not stop. Do not remove your foot off the gas pedal. We have to keep going full steam. And we have to get better at it. We have to get more advanced at it. Because what Netanyahu just said is that this is such a major battlefield, but notice how they don't play fair. His suggestion is to purchase, to take over the platform so that we control it. And we will just ban anyone from criticizing Israel. So why he specifically says TikTok is the most important is because TikTok is mainly used by youth, by younger demographics, and they recognize that that's a huge problem because the youth are the future. So if American youth are on TikTok and they're anti-Israel, that's a huge problem. That means that in very short order, the US, the people who are going to have the economic power and the political power are going to be people who don't like Israel, or they're even neutral about Israel. That's also a problem. So this has to be changed, and one of the first steps that they're taking is we're going to purchase TikTok so that we can control. And we're going to influence X. We're going to influence Elon Musk, as if there's not enough influence on Elon Musk already when they forced him to wear the Jew cap and go to Israel, to go to Auschwitz. Like, okay, how much more control of Elon Musk that you need? But it's never enough, apparently. So that's the way that they play. They just take over. And we don't have the same kinds of resources as Muslims. We don't have. How many multi-billionaire Muslims do we have in the world compared to Jewish billionaires? You can compare the numbers. The billionaires that we do have, unfortunately, we see what they are, what they do, what they care about. They don't seem to care about the interests of Muslims. They don't seem to care about the plight of the Palestinians. They don't have any kind of grander vision for the future of the Ummah and taking us from where we are in a position of weakness, subjugation, to a position of strength. Our billionaires, as far as I can tell, they don't have any interest in that. Do they? Do they? No. The Jewish billionaires, the people that are supporting Netanyahu, they're supporting the state of Israel, they are willing to spend billions and billions of dollars for their cause. That's what their billionaires are doing. Our billionaires, they're buying Bugattis and, you know, showing off their yachts and showing off like, oh, look at these tall buildings that we're building. Oh, another tall building, another tall record being broken for tallest building in the world. Look at that. Wow. You know, that's what our billionaires are doing. Just pursuit of dunya, pursuing their ego. And I'm not saying that these Jewish billionaire Zionists, they have like some kind of otherworldly, like they're thinking of the akhirah. That's not the contrast. They're also pursuing the dunya, but at least they are pursuing the interests of their own group, their own tribe. That's what they care about, and that's what they're willing to spend billions on. But when it comes to our billionaires, they spend on themselves, on their ego, on showing off, things that actually have no benefit. Like, what's the benefit of a tall building, you idiot? What's the benefit of that? Does that make anyone admire you, your culture, or your people? No. Is Elon Musk the richest man on earth? Is he trying to build a tall building? Like, he could build 50 of the tallest buildings, and that won't even cost 1% of his total net worth. So what? So what? Like, this is like the kind of retardation that unfortunately we suffer from. Like, these are the people, the most retarded, the least strategic people have all of this wealth, have all of these billions, and all that they can think to do with it is to build tall buildings, to buy soccer clubs so that we have a football team, to host, you know, different sporting events, to bring on concerts. Like, this is it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating. Meanwhile, they're strategizing, how are we going to use the U.S. political system in order to take over TikTok? Because that's a complex thing. That's a complex, multi-step that involves this massive network that you have to mobilize in order to take a Chinese company, Chinese social media company, and forcefully acquire it according to the law, according to the bounds of law, the American legal system, etc. And we saw this play out. You know, we saw that right after October 7th, when the Zionists realized that TikTok has become a pro-Palestinian social media platform. We have control over Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and X, or Twitter at that time. Musk had bought it by October 7th, 2 years ago. But still, you had all these policies that were restricting criticism of Jews and Israel. So we have control over all of those, but TikTok, we don't have control over. You know, we don't have control. Who's heading Facebook or Meta? Mark Zuckerberg, Zionist, Jewish Zionist. Who's heading up YouTube? It's Google, the Google company, Alphabet, and who's running that? Two Zionists, two Jewish Zionists. So all of those social media platforms we have on lock, we have control, but not TikTok. It's Chinese owned. It's headquartered in China. We can't pressure them in the same way. They don't rely on the same advertisers. because that's what they did with X. Okay, so Elon Musk is not he's not Jewish, he's not an overt Zionist. So how do we pressure him? Well, we threaten to pull all of the advertisers. And this is what the ADL tried to do. The ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, that advocates for Jewish Zionist causes exclusively. They went to all of the major advertisers that were advertising on X and said that, look, X is promoting hate. They're promoting anti-Semitism. Look at the amount of hate speech. And they bring up all of these reports, all of this data to prove that, oh, there's so much hate. And this could lead to violence and extremism. And you don't want your brand to be associated with that. So you need to pull advertising. So a lot of these advertisers pulled out millions of dollars from X in order to lead to the financial ruin of Elon Musk's new social media platform. And it worked. And immediately Elon bent the knee. He went and visited Israel. He went and had a PAL session with Netanyahu. And even now, Netanyahu is saying, like, oh, we need to talk. We need to talk to Elon Musk. Yeah, by talk, you mean threaten. You want to threaten him. You want to threaten him to get in line. Otherwise, there will be consequences. This is blackmail. So then TikTok. What do? They start agitating lawmakers. So all these AIPAC-controlled lawmakers start saying that, oh, TikTok is anti-Israel, therefore we have to ban it. No, they say TikTok is Chinese-owned, and the data of Americans is going to China. That data is sensitive. This is a security issue. We can't have the Chinese owning American data. This is a problem. So we have to ban TikTok. That's what they were saying 2 years ago. That's what they're saying 2 years ago. But everyone knew, like, well, what's really going on here? What's really the plan? What's really the problem is all the criticism of Israel on TikTok. This is the battlefield. So, as Netanyahu mentioned. And now it's happened. Now, as far as the US component of TikTok, it's majority owned by Larry Ellison, who is the founder, CEO of Oracle, another major tech company. And Larry Ellison is the second most wealthy man in the world after Elon Musk. I think his net worth is around over $300 billion. And Larry Ellison is a close personal friend of Benjamin Netanyahu, hardcore Zionist. He's the biggest private donor to the IDF. He's writing multi-million-dollar checks from his personal wealth to the IDF. This is who now owns TikTok. So a lot of people have been saying that, well, we're winning the narrative. We're winning the narrative on Israel, and so many people are now, J-woke. They're recognizing what Israel is about, what Jewish power is doing in the United States, and we're winning. And I've cautioned Muslims especially against this type of optimism because it's not really justified. Structurally, everything is the same or getting worse. If now, like over the past 2 years, we've seen more harsh criticism being allowed against Israel, that doesn't mean that that's a permanent situation. They can always turn off the spigot. They can always clamp down. They can always start banning again in the same way that they were doing before, or even worse, more harsh restrictions. And that seems to be the direction that they're going. They're freaking out. That's why Netanyahu is talking like this. And the evidence, this was published by the New York Times just a couple of days ago. Look at this article. This is American support for Israel dramatically declines. A Times poll finds out. A majority of American voters now oppose sending additional economic and military aid to Israel, a stunning reversal in public opinion since the October 7th attacks. So let's read what this says. Nearly 2 years into the war in Gaza, American support for Israel has undergone a seismic reversal, with large shares of voters expressing starkly negative views about the Israeli government's management of the conflict, a new poll from the New York Times and Siena University found. Disapproval of the war appears to have prompted a striking reassessment by American voters of their broader sympathies in the decades-old conflict in the region, with slightly more voters siding with Palestinians over Israelis for the first time since the Times began asking voters about their sympathies in 1998. In the aftermath of the Hamas-led attacks on Israel on October 7th, American voters broadly sympathized with Israelis over Palestinians, with 47% siding with Israel and 20% with Palestinians. In the new poll, 34% said they sided with Israel and 35% with Palestinians. 31% said they were unsure or backed both equally. A majority of American voters now oppose sending additional economic and military aid to Israel, a stunning reversal in public opinion since the October 7th attacks. About 6 out of 10 voters said that Israel should end its military campaign, even if the remaining Israeli hostages were not released or Hamas was not eliminated, and 40% of voters said Israel was intentionally killing civilians in Gaza, nearly double the number of voters who agreed with that statement in the 2023 poll. So this is what's causing them to freak out. The numbers are just directionally so bad. So even if, okay, so 35% versus 34%, is that really that big of a deal? Like, is that really a big problem? And the answer is not by itself, but it's representing a stark movement, a seismic shift. Things are continuously getting worse, not better. Year after year. So this is why they have to raise their alarms. They have to really rethink their strategy. And there's two philosophies within the Jewish community. And I've talked to Jews on this channel, and you can go back and look at some of the debates that I've had and live streams where this is discussed. So do you remember the guy named Duvid that I debated, and then I had like a conversation with Duvid in a separate stream? He represents a type of Jewish attitude that was predominant maybe in the past, definitely in the 20th century, that if we want to really exercise our power, it has to be understated. It has to be soft power. It has to be clandestine. It has to be covert. And that is really the best way to work the system in our favor for our interests. If we're known to be engaged in this type of manipulation, that's very dangerous. That's going to turn people against us. It's going to make people very angry. So we have to be covert. We have to be covert and clandestine. That's one philosophy. It's represented by someone like Duvid, for example, and others figures throughout the past century. The other school of thought, represented by Netanyahu, is no, we are done being covert. We are done being clandestine. We need to be open. We need to start, showing our strength and showing our might and putting the fear of Jews in the hearts of the non-Jews. We have to start exercising hard power now, not soft power. The age of soft power is over. Now we're in the age of hard power. Because as you can see, the soft power, it's not preventing Jews from being killed. October 7th happened, right? It's not preventing, we're not winning as many fans. We're becoming more and more vilified. So now is the time to really flex our muscles, to really show the world what we're made of. And we're right there at the finish line. We're right there to finish the job. Iran is that last piece. And once that's taken care of, then our power is going to be just unchallengeable. Yeah, you can hate us. Yeah, be as anti-Semitic as you want. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We have all the cards. We have all the weapons. We control all of your institutions. in America. So it doesn't matter. Like, okay, the polls show that Americans are increasingly disgruntled with Israel. They don't want to provide, they're not going to support more aid, more military aid, economic aid. Fine. Be as disgruntled and unhappy as you want. We're going to, we still control it all. We are still, all of Congress is owned by AIPAC. All of Congress is going to vote for more and more aid to Israel. There's a near consensus, and the few congressmen or senators that disagree, we're going to spend millions of dollars to get them removed from their positions. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? So this is the shift that we are seeing. The shift from soft power to hard power, and we even see it when it comes to the Arab world as well. Even when it comes to the Arab world, you are seeing increasingly these Jewish leaders who are going and visiting the Gulf. They're going and visiting Syria or Lebanon, and they're taking these high-profile photo ops with the leaders of these countries, with these Arab leaders. And before, that was unthinkable. Like, this is going to cause a PR disaster for that leader. The leader being seen with an Israeli official, that is a PR disaster. Insofar as we're having meetings and we're pulling the strings, that needs to be covert. That needs to be hidden. We don't want the Arab populace to be aware of this, to be aware of our deals that we're making and these meetings that we're having. We need to keep that from the Arab population. Because that's going to make our job a lot harder. Now, it's like, no, it doesn't matter. Like, in fact, we demand that these Arab leaders are going to stand and smile with us. And we're going to basically challenge, like, what are you going to do about it? And this is what happened with Julani. I wanted to talk about Julani in his recent trip to the UN. And he met with the president of the World Jewish Congress, like this hardcore Zionist, and just no shame. Like, what are you going to do about it? Like, who cares? Yeah, we own Julani. We own him. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do about it? And this was the pic. Like, it's so shocking, and it represents such a massive sea change. Like, look at this guy. This is the head of the World Jewish Congress, Ronald Lauder, at the Syrian mission in New York. So Goilani goes to New York for this UN meeting. He speaks to the UN. And I'm going to show you more footage of this. We're going to talk about it. There you can see the idol ball, the pagan idol on his chest, the gold eagle. Of course, that has to be represented. And then you have, like, look at this hardcore Zionist from the World Jewish Congress smiling. Like, look at his eyes. Like, that smile is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, what are you going to do about it? Like, do you think I care? Do you think I care what the cattle thinks? Like, this is my number one goy. This is my number one slave right here, Goilani. What are you going to do about it? And then, yeah, look at, I mean, it's so clear, it's so obvious that you've been duped. You've been duped, fell for it again. And we're going to talk about this later in the stream, inshallah. So, what else? So, TikTok taken over, X, in the process of being clamped down on. The same kind of criticism of Israel is going to be shut down. And it's very critical at this moment because Israel is going to get more and more aggressive. Everything that they've been doing to Gaza, guess who they're going to do it to next? The West Bank. The West Bank, another area with 1 million Palestinians who are already been subjugated to the worst kind of apartheid subjugation. And it's becoming more and more violent. The Israeli settlers are engaging in more killing, more arson, burning down Palestinian homes, bulldozing their homes, taking over their farmland, taking over their land. They're going to take over all of the West Bank. And what are they going to do to the Palestinians in the West Bank? The same thing that they want to do to the Palestinians in Gaza. They want to liquidate them, forcibly remove them. That's next on the agenda. So more genocide. What are they doing in southern Syria? What are they doing in southern Lebanon? Same thing, same process. What do they want to do to the Sinai? This is the Greater Israel Project. So, and this is, I was mentioning, like, the hard power stance. That's what, like, the debate that I had with Adam King that you might have seen on the channel from a couple of weeks ago. Adam King is kind of the representative of the hard power. Like, we are going to do it, and what are you going to do about it? Because that's ultimately their goal. Like, how covert can you be about taking over all this land? How covert can you be about a genocide? How can you hide that? The only way that you can hide that is if you have a complete media blackout and you make it illegal to criticize Israel by law. That's where they want to eventually go, by the way. And that's going to turn out, very, create a very explosive situation. But that's the hard power that they now want to engage in, because how can you be covert about what you're doing? Like, it's so in your face, like the kind of expansive goals that you have to create a greater Israel, which Netanyahu explicitly acknowledged. He said, that's my vision. Netanyahu was asked about greater Israel. He says, that's my vision. That's aligned with my vision. That's what he wants to do. And I'm sure you've seen the map of greater Israel. It encompasses Egypt, the north of Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, all of Palestine, obviously, the west side of Iraq, parts of southern Turkey, Kuwait. That's all included in greater Israel. What are those countries going to do about it? They're going to build taller buildings. They're going to build taller buildings, and they're going to host the World Cup. And then Goilani is going to go meet with the head of the World Jewish Congress and take smiling photo ops with him. Because they're going to open a Starbucks in Damascus. That's what the Syrians really needed, is a Starbucks in Damascus. So, it's very frustrating. So what are we supposed to do as Muslims? Like, why are we in this situation, and what are we supposed to do? I want to read some of the ayat of the Quran. What does the Quran say? What does Allah say about such a situation? And there are parallels with previous nations, namely Bani Israel. So, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 246. Did you not see, or I'll read this translation. Have you not considered the assembly of the children of Israel after the time of Moses, when they said to a prophet of theirs, send to us a king and we will fight in the way of Allah? So Bani Israel is telling one of their prophets, send to us a king and we will fight in the way of Allah. So they want leadership. We are not going to be able to fight. We're not going to be able to take ourselves out of this situation without a leader. We need a king. So the prophet said to them, the prophet that was sent to Bani Israel said, would you perhaps refrain from fighting if battle was prescribed for you? So even if there's a battle that's prescribed, you're prescribed to fight, and you are avoiding that. And your excuse is that you don't have a leader. So that's not going to change when you have a leader. When you have a leader, that kind of hesitation to fight, that's not going to go away. They said, and why should we not fight in the cause of Allah when we have been driven out from our homes and from our children? So they're saying, oh, of course we're going to fight. Of course we're going to fight back. It's in our interests. Why wouldn't we? So that's an interesting response. Like, why wouldn't we? We've been driven out of our homes. And we've lost our children. So of course we're going to fight. That's like a dunyawi perspective. Instead of fight for the cause of Allah. Fight for the cause of iman. Like that's the reason that you should fight. But the way that they're understanding is like, well, why wouldn't we? We have a dunya reason to fight, so why wouldn't we? And the irony is that that's not enough of a reason. Still, they're too cowardly. Still, they are going to run away from the conflict. But when battle was prescribed for them, they turned away except for a few of them, and Allah is knowing of the wrongdoers. So there's something wrong internally. There's a spiritual problem. That even if you have this spiritual problem, it doesn't matter if you have a leader. It doesn't matter if you have resources. It doesn't matter if you have all of the reason in the world to fight back, because you've lost everything. You've lost your home. You've lost your children. You've lost any kind of dunya thing, and you have all the dunyawi incentive to fight back. It doesn't matter if there's something wrong internally. So then look at what the next verse says. And their prophet said to them, indeed, Allah has sent to you Talut. Talut, translated as Saul, as a king. They said, how can he have kingship over us while we are more worthy of kingship than him, and he has not been given any measure of wealth? So Allah is sending them a king. Sending them a leader, and what is the first thing that they do? They start questioning this leader. Say, we're more worthy to be the king than this guy, than Talut. Why has he been given kingship over us? We're more worthy, and he hasn't been given wealth. He's not rich. He's not rich, so how can he be the leader of us? So just look at the lack of shukr, the lack of contentment, the lack of, even when Allah is giving them the best king, a king sent from Allah, and they have a prophet, a Nabi is telling them that here is the king from Allah that you were complaining, you were wanting. You're saying that this is what you need. This was the excuse that you gave. Here he is. And now you're rejecting him. Now you're bringing up the more excuses. Oh, he's not worthy. He's not wealthy. This is the mindset. So the prophet that was sent to them said, indeed, Allah has chosen him over you and has increased him abundantly in knowledge and stature. And Allah gives his sovereignty to whom he wills, and Allah is all encompassing in favor and knowing. So it's interesting, this response from the prophet that was sent to them. Allah has chosen him over you, and he's increased him abundantly in knowledge and stature. And the word in Arabic for stature is jism. Jism means like body, physique. So that's interesting. Like, why is that relevant? Knowledge we can kind of understand. Like, someone has greater knowledge, so they're more worthy in that sense. But the verse, the ayah, doesn't just say knowledge. It also includes stature. Why? And does this just mean like he's just bigger physically? Okay, why is that important? Like, whoever's the biggest and strongest has to be the leader? Is that the model of leadership that is being suggested in this ayah? Or does it mean, and Allahu A'lam, Allah knows best, that the stature here means strength? That he is knowledgeable, but he pairs the knowledge with strength, with resolve, with the ability to withstand pressure, to withstand wrong influences. This is very critical. And in English, we have an expression, a pushover, someone who's a pushover. Someone who is a pushover, like what that means, it's a metaphorical expression. It means someone who is easily convinced, like someone who easily concedes, gives up. Whatever position he has on a topic, he will give it up and he will concede and he will compromise very easily. Just put a little bit of pressure, a little bit of a push, and he will topple over. He will concede, he will compromise, he will retreat, he will surrender. That's a pushover. But it has to do with, it's a metaphor, but the idea is that someone who is physically strong is not going to be easily pushed over. You can put pressure on him, even a lot of pressure, but he's going to hold firm. He's going to be solid. He's not going to easily surrender. So this is two qualities that he had as a leader: knowledge and stature. Unfortunately, we have many knowledgeable people in our ummah today. They're extremely knowledgeable, but they have no stature. Whether that is like a physical stature, purely in physical terms, but also in metaphysical terms. They have no stature. They're easily pushed over. They just get moved by what is popular. What is the popular opinion? What is the cultural imperative based off of a culture that has been corrupted by Western influence and degeneracy? They get easily swayed by, a kind of deference to women. Like you have all of these simps, like you have all of these simp imams, simp scholars. They have knowledge, but they use that knowledge for compromise. How can Muslims better compromise? How can Muslims better assimilate? How can Muslims be more peaceful? We need to be peaceful, guys. That's our main problem, is we're not peaceful enough. Meanwhile, the boot of the disbelievers are on our necks, choking us out, killing us, and we're talking about peace. We're talking about peace. How about we talk about justice? How about we talk about what needs to happen to stop a genocide of Muslims? Like, isn't that a more pressing topic as opposed to peace? Like, yeah, we want peace, but the peace that the powers of the world are working towards is a peace through elimination of Muslims, genocide of Muslims. Like, so why would Muslims be having this conversation? So that's the kind of knowledge without stature, knowledge divorced from stature, from strength, from resolve, from a willingness to be combative if necessary, a willingness to be confrontational if necessary, to disagree, to fight when necessary. That's what stature means. That's what stature means. And this is why that's the kind of leadership that Talut had, that Allah gave him. And that's what made him suitable as a leader. But of course, as we know from the remaining story of Talut in Surah Al-Baqarah, the Bani Israel continue to disobey him, continue to show a lack of loyalty to him, a lack of willingness to follow him. They continue to bicker and to argue, to disobey. So those are the two horns of our dilemma. Our situation is not only a lack of leadership, but a lack of followership. A lack of followership as well. Unfortunately, we have so many divisions, partly because Muslims are not willing to follow. And this is itself a big problem. And this is why I want to contrast with, again, with Jews. Okay, when you look at Jews, they have many divisions amongst themselves. They have many disagreements amongst themselves. They fight very harshly, Jew versus Jew. You see that within the Jewish community globally. But they draw the line. They draw the line at a certain point. We're not going to let our differences go beyond a certain line. And that's when our interests as a community are threatened. When our interests are threatened, then that's when we need to be united. That's when we need to put the disagreements to the side to defend ourselves from an outside force. This is what you find from the Jewish community. Muslims, unfortunately, many Muslims, they don't have that sense. They don't have that kind of practical thinking. And we see that. We saw that. We've been seeing that from the beginning of October 7th. We saw this in June with the Israeli attack on Iran. where ignorant Muslims, either they're ignorant or they have some kind of corruption in their hearts, or they're literally munafiqeen that are working for Unit 8200, or they're working for Israel. They don't recognize that we're in an existential situation. We are being genocided, a genocide that's not going to just stop with Gaza. It's going to expand throughout the Middle East and then the entire world. Our enemies want to erase Islam off the face of the earth. No recognition of that existential threat, that existential reality. We have to continue fighting and bickering. We have to continue to takfir. We have to continue to argue about these finer points of aqidah. And this is what the Wahhabis did. This is what sectarians did. And they're still doing. They're still doing. Like an idiot like Adnan Rashid, for example, uncle retard, auntie retard, whatever you want to call him, he's still on the same rant. He's still on the same argument from months ago that the biggest threat are the Shia, etc. He's, I guess, Israel, his handlers in Tel Aviv told him he needs to ramp it up once more, this rhetoric, because we're about to go and attack Iran. I think that's the message that his handlers are giving him. That's what it seems like. Because how can you be so stupid to not recognize that if Israel defeats Iran, that last dam against the Zionist plan for the entire Middle East, how can you not understand the threat that that poses for the rest of the Ummah, let alone the Muslims in the Middle East? Like, how can you not recognize that? And he refuses to debate it. He refuses to argue it. That's how you know he's an insincere person. Because if you were sincere, you would want to, if you have a lack of knowledge of something, which he clearly does, you would want to know more and you want to be educated so that you realize what the real threat is. If you care about the Ummah, if you care about Muslim lives, if you care about the Muslims of Syria or Jordan or Lebanon or Saudi Arabia or Qatar or wherever, if you truly care about the Muslim Ummah and the Muslim lives, all these millions of Muslims who live in these areas, you should be willing to understand what is the major threat to their lives. If you don't know, Israel has this greater plan for the region, and they're executing it step by step in a very clear and predictable way. If you don't know that, then let us educate you on that. He's not willing to be educated. He just has a propaganda line that he wants to spread. And it's not just him. Again, you have all of these Wahhabi influencers and sectarians who are ramping up this kind of rhetoric again and again. And unfortunately, I need to see more from Muslims to recognize this plot, to recognize that whose interests is this rhetoric, this sectarian rhetoric, really serving? It's serving Israel. It's serving Israel. So me, I'm very clear that when it comes to Shia, they are deviant. They're a deviant sect. They have these wrong beliefs. And we critique these beliefs and we don't accept them. But they're Muslims. There are Muslims, brothers and sisters, and their lives, we have to protect their lives. This is what Allah commands us to do. And we have to unite with them against a bigger threat. This is what Allah commands us to do in the Quran. This is what the Sunnah is. And so if you are not going to do that, then you're in violation of the Quran. You're disobeying Allah in a very deliberate way. And we have to call you out for that. We have to call you out and we have to point out that this is the behavior of the Khawarij. This is the behavior of the Munafiqeen, the hypocrites in the Quran. And we won't tolerate it. This has to be our message on social media. We have to close ranks. We have to really clean up this trash, because this is a huge cancer that is an internal problem that is sabotaging us and our ability to survive. Those are the stakes. And a lot of Muslims, unfortunately, don't get it. Another example is this authentic ilm mission AIM. In AIM, last year, I was very heartened by the fact that they put out a statement expressing the correct aqidah, the correct position that as Muslims, we have to be supporting the Shia and united with them to fight against an existential threat of Zionism. US-backed Zionism. This is what they put out. This is what AIM, Authentic Ilm Mission with Sheikh Karim Abu Zaid, they put this out. But then they retracted it. Why? Why did you retract it? Is what you said wrong? Is what you said incorrect? Because it was not just like a tweet. It was like a 4 or 5 page statement. So clearly a lot of thought went into it. You wrote in this entire document, you published it, you put it on your official letterhead, and you distributed it. Then within 24 hours, you take it down? This is a shame. This like completely destroys your credibility. And it should destroy your credibility. Why are you deleting something like this? Again, like when it comes to Jews, this is the thing that a lot of Muslims are constantly talking about. Oh, look at what the Jews are doing with the lobbying. The Israeli lobby. Oh, look at how much money they're putting, millions of dollars to buy politicians and to put congressmen and congresswomen. Like, oh, we need to follow that plan. Like, isn't that the case? Isn't that what, especially in America, especially in the UK, this is how the strategic Muslim thinkers, the strategic Muslims with money especially, this is how they think. Like, we need to just imitate the Jews and this or that. But the irony is that you didn't pick out, you didn't identify and recognize the true strength that they have. The true strength that they have is from putting aside their differences and their disagreements when they face an existential threat. Even when they don't face an existential threat, they make up an existential threat and they pretend like they're going to be genocided, and then they rally behind that. And they support each other in that. Why didn't you pick up that aspect, the tribalistic aspect of their behavior? And again, I'm not saying that this is a good thing in and of itself, to be tribalistic for the sake of tribalism, for the sake of dunya. That's the kind of tribalism that they demonstrate in their religion and culture. I'm not saying we imitate that. We have a higher purpose. We have more reason to be united. We have more reason to put aside differences. Not erase differences, but to put aside differences. Because Allah tells us to do this. Allah tells us that we must do this to preserve the deen, to preserve the religion, to pursue the akhirah, to pursue Jannah. And to avoid the hellfire. This is what Allah commands us to do, and we're not doing it. They're just pursuing their own self-benefit in the dunya because they don't even believe, many of them, in the akhirah, 50% of their rabbis supposedly don't even believe in God. So they don't believe in God and they're still behaving in this way. So how about us? We believe in God. We believe in God and we're not able to work together. And this is what they said. This is what the Wahhabis said. The Palestinians, they are grave worshippers. They're grave worshippers because they don't accept everything that our Sheikh said, Ibn Abdul Wahhab said, and they ally with Rafidi, Iran. So they're Rafidi lovers. They're Rafidi themselves, so we can't support the Palestinians. That's what the Wahhabis initially said. And then when they got curb stomped on social media, they kind of hid. They did taqiyya of their actual views. And then they pretended like they support Palestine. They put a couple of tweets out. Oh, Netanyahu is bad. Allah cursed Netanyahu. And that just to get Muslims off the scent that actually Wahhabis are, basically a Zionist front. So that's their position. Like constant aggression, constant civil war, just like the Khawarij. Just like the Khawarij who attacked the Khulafa, who attacked Ali, for example, the fourth caliph, and they forced him to retake his shahada because he's not upholding the sunnah. That's what they say about Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ali ibn Abi Talib is not upholding the sunnah. This is what they said, the Khawarij. Because we're so serious. We're so strict on the sunnah. Isn't this what the Wahhabis say? We're so strict on the sunnah. We're not going to compromise. 1 inch of the sunnah, we're not going to compromise. This is what the Wahhabis say. Yeah, that's exactly what the Khawarij said. That's exactly what the Khawarij said. We're not going to compromise one jot or tittle of the Sunnah. They didn't recognize that if you have a difference, even if, let's assume that you're different, what your criticism is of the Sahaba, of Ali ibn Abi Talib and the Khulafa Rashidin, your criticism of them, even if, let's assume that it's valid. Let's just assume. When there's this kind of chaos, fitna, disunity that is threatening the ummah, that's threatening the future of Islam, you put your differences aside and you unite on the basis of iman. This is a very clear principle from the Quran, from the Sunnah. Only a deviant group like the Khawarij would disagree. And other groups as well, and other groups actually. This kind of attitude is also found amongst the Mu'tazila, for example. It's also actually ironically found amongst the Shia. Even the Shia, unfortunately, they have this kind of problem historically in their past. Now they've gone over it. Their biggest authorities are calling for unity with Sunnis. But I don't care about that. I care about our principles as Sunnis, as followers of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, followers of the Quran and Sunnah. Our principle internally is that we have to put aside division for the sake of fighting back against an existential threat. So we have a problem of leadership. We have a problem of followership. Look at what we find in verse 32-24. Surah As-Sajdah, the 24th verse. And we made from among them leaders, guiding by our command when they were patient and when they were certain of our signs. So if we want leaders, we want strong leaders who have power, who can change our situation, well, we have to change what is in ourselves. And here is the prescription that Allah gives. We have to have patience, sabr, patient perseverance. When we're faced with all of these pressures, all of these challenges, literal genocide is happening. We have to be patient. We can't lose hope in Allah. We can't start diverging. We can't start changing the religion and compromising our religion. That's sabr, and there has to be certainty in the signs, in the ayat of Allah. We have to have certainty. Unfortunately, we see the opposite in the ummah. We see the opposite in compromising parts of the deen that can never be compromised. How much has there been a compromise to secularism? How much of a compromise has there been to liberalism, to feminism, to democracy, democratic capitalism? How much of a compromise have we seen in the ummah for the past 250 years? And you have Muslims who are advocating changing the Sharia, changing the law, updating it, revising it, and bringing all kinds of excuses for this. This is reformism. This is secular reformism. And it's being taught in the madaris, in the Islamic universities. All of these compromises that are being taught. Why? What's causing that? What's causing people to want to compromise, to reform Islam? It's because of lack of certainty in the signs of Allah, lack of certainty in the promise of Allah. We just don't have the same certainty that the Sahaba had, that if you follow Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that you will succeed. You will be granted tawfiq in this life and the next. Where's the certainty? Now we have doubts. Like, are we really going to be successful if we don't adopt, a Western model of marriage, a Western model of divorce, if we don't adopt a Western model of schooling our children, if we don't adopt a Western model of organizing our families, of organizing our masajid, of organizing our communities, organizing our nations, our governments? Will we really be successful? No more certainty, no more confidence, no more patience, no more sabr, no more perseverance. So how are we going to get leaders? How is Allah going to bring us leaders? Leadership is something that Allah grants. It's one of the benefits that Allah, one of the blessings that Allah brings to people when they deserve that leadership. So everyone who is waiting for the Mahdi, Imam Mahdi, to come, like, oh, well, we're suffering, we're being subjugated, we're being genocided. The Imam Mahdi will come and solve all these problems. What? Why? This is the wrong conception that you have. You have to change yourself. You can't be in the same state. You can't be in the same lowly state of compromise and lack of certainty, reform, liberalizing, feminizing, secularizing. Allah's not going to bring an imam for you to take you out of the humiliation and the subjugation. That humiliation and the subjugation that we're all suffering from is because we have reformed, we have compromised, we have changed, we have gone further and further from the sunnah. That's the punishment. The punishment is to be subjugated. That's what we're suffering. It's the ummah's problem. This is what al-wahan that the Prophet ﷺ described in the hadith, where he says that all the nations will gather to eat from the ummah as if they're coming to a dinner plate. And you're going to be weak. You can't do anything about it. You can't save yourselves. You're going to be weak as the foam on the sea because you have this love of the dunya and you have a hatred for death. The dunya has penetrated in your hearts. So you, for example, you want to have, I don't know, what's an example? Like you want to have an Islamic conference and at the conference, you're not going to abide by any kind of gender segregation because, that's kind of, it's, not ideal. Separating the genders, do we really need to have that? Do we really need to have a barrier? Like, oh, we have this conference and, we need to have like female speakers, front and center talking to the men, boss babes. Like we need to have the muhajjaba who's going to be wearing this costume and speaking about the Quran. Like we have to have it. We have to, or our countries, of course, we have to have this kind of parliamentary system. We have to. That's the way that it's done. That's the way that it's done. Well, can you justify that this is the way that the Prophet ﷺ did it, or the Sahaba, the Khulafa? Is this how they did things? Well, we have to. Like, well, what's going to happen if you don't? What's going to happen if you don't go by the script that others have written for you? What are the consequences? That's where the fear of death comes from. That's where the fear and oftentimes it's just a paranoia. It's not an actual threat. Like we're not going to actually kill you. We're not going to actually destroy you if you have a gender segregated conference or you have a Muslim country that is run according to the Sharia. You're not actually going to die, but it's a paranoia that you've created because Shaitan has come and whispered to you and said, oh, if you don't do things according to this model, according to a secular, feminist, liberal model, you're going to be killed. So you fear death. You love the dunya, you fear death, and then you compromise. This is a lack of yaqeen. This is a lack of certainty in the promise of Allah. So, of course, there's not going to be any leaders. There's not going to be an Imam Mahdi that is going to come. Only if you have that certainty. Only if you have that certainty in the promise of Allah and you do your best. And we're going to fail. We're not going to always accomplish in our personal lives or even on a communal level or a national level. We're not always going to be successful, but we try. We try our best. And we ask Allah for forgiveness for our shortcomings. That's very different from the situation that we have now where there's no attempt. So of course we're not going to get leaders. Like even look at the local level. Like I'm in the United States. Our leaders of the masjid, like who's running the masajid in the United States. Doctors and engineers, the wealthy. Remember the verse that we just read. The verse that we just read from Surah Al-Baqarah, the Bani Israel, they rejected Talut because they said he's not worthy and he's not wealthy. The leaders have to be wealthy. So the Muslims in the US and the UK and the West in general, they followed that model. They followed Bani Israel, like, oh, well, our leaders are only the wealthy, not the people of knowledge and stature, physical stature and metaphysical stature. Those aren't our leaders. So even on a micro scale, we're talking about like a masjid. Some of the masajid that don't even have like 200 congregants, 200 Muslims coming in praying for Friday prayers at them, and they're still dictated by masjid politics, where the most ignorant people, just purely because they have money, they're in charge. They're in charge. And then when there is someone knowledgeable who comes, they attack him and they want to get rid of him, and they don't follow him, they don't obey him. So it's the same parallel situation that we have as Bani Israel did, that we are reading about in Surah Al-Baqarah and elsewhere. They don't have yaqeen, they don't have followership, they don't have sabr, they don't have ta'ah, obedience as followers. So how do you expect the situation to get better? How do you expect our condition to be changed? How do you expect Allah to give us the blessings of leadership that we need? We have to change ourselves internally. That's advice to myself. That's advice to you. Another verse that I think is relevant this is from Surah Al-Anfal, the 60th verse. And prepare against them whatever you're able of power and steeds of war, by which you may terrify the enemy of Allah and your enemy and others besides them, whom you do not know, but whom Allah knows. And whatever you spend in the cause of Allah will be fully repaid to you, and you will not be wronged. What's significant about this is that this is a verse about preparation. Prepare, so that you will scare the opponent. They'll be terrified of you because of how much you've prepared. And right now, we're in a situation where we're terrified of the Zionists. There's fear that many Muslims have of Zionists. Why? They have prepared. The genocide that they're undertaking right now in Palestine, so much has gone into it, step by step by step. So much has been prepared. So many institutions have been built. So many institutions have been infiltrated. So many institutions have been controlled. Whether it's in finances, whether it's in media, whether it's in the universities, whether it's in government, in Congress, Capitol Hill. They have prepared. Where is our preparation? And this is what Allah is saying. You need to prepare. Of power. Prepare what you're able to of power. Steeds of war. Weapons, power. Quwwah. Do Muslims put any... And Allah is saying, whatever you spend, what are you spending to build institutions of power? And I've been talking about this for many years. Many years I've been talking about this. I've been advocating for this. And I make this point. Like, when you look at the kind of money that wealthy Muslims spend, it's on the poor, it's on the needy. That's fine, okay? A certain percentage of our wealth needs to go to the poor. It must go to the poor. That's what zakat is about. That's what zakat is about. But what about sadaqah? What about general charity that Muslims can give? It's also going to the poor. It's also all going to the poor. What about preparation? What about building institutions of power? Infiltrating institutions of power? Nothing is being spent on that. And that's the evidence of that, is that we don't have any kind of institutions that are willing to confront, that are willing to fight on the basis of Islam, on the basis of a Muslim identity. You have these civil rights organizations, like CARE, for example. CARE has done good work in the past. They have defended Muslims in the past, but they've become like a liberal activist organization. All they're doing is a kind of advocacy that is extremely compromised by liberalism and feminism and LGBT. They have been big promoters of LGBT, for example. So their main identity is not a Muslim or Islamic identity. And they've explicitly said that. Directors of CARE, for example. They're the Council on American Islamic Relations, CAIR. That's what CARE stands for. And they come out and explicitly say that, well, actually, we're not dictated by Islam. Like, we're not an Islamic organization. We don't, we support LGBT as a civil matter as Americans. Okay, your identity is American. You're American Muslim. You have this hyphenated identity, and clearly American identity is the basis of that. Not Muslim identity, not Islam. They're been explicit about that. So what other organizations do we have? And can we move beyond just advocacy? Like, can we move beyond just advocating in a generic way for Muslims on the basis of, oh, we're tired of Islamophobia? Don't be racist. Don't be racist. Can you just not be racist against us? Like, that's the limit. That's the end-all, be-all of advocacy that we see from these institutions that we have built. And the thing is that you can't have these institutions in the Muslim world, for the most part, not every country, but most of these Muslim countries are also controlled. And this should not be a surprise, like what I'm saying. So you have many Muslim institutions in the Muslim world in a lot of these countries, but they're, guess what, government controlled. And guess who those governments are subservient to? Yes. And for what reasons? For the same reasons. Hubb ad-dunya, for love of dunya and hatred of fear of death. So forget about the Muslim world. So in the West, we do have some degree of freedom to build institutions. It's a limited freedom. The US is the best place for it compared to European countries or Canada. There is more robust, quote unquote, freedom of religion in the US. What have they built with their hundreds of millions of dollars that Muslim American Muslims have, from being doctors and engineers and businessmen and lawyers? What institutions? Oh, just another $10 million to build a big building, to build a big, tall building. And it's ironic, right? Because you have American Muslims who are complaining about the Gulf and, oh, the Gulf, they have so much oil wealth and they're just building tall buildings. It's not just limited to the Gulf. In the United States, the Muslims are also building tall buildings. They're also competing. Oh, the masjid is so tall, and we have a dome, and we have a minaret. We're competing for big buildings in the U.S. as well. It's the same retardation. We have it in the U.S. amongst the most enlightened, educated Muslims. It's the same problem. What institutions have you built other than the kind of cheap advocacy on the basis of liberal rights? We want our liberal rights. Okay, I'm not saying there is a place for that. Like, we need to be able to do lawfare. We need to be able to go to court. We need to be able to use the law in whatever country for our benefit. But can we do anything beyond that? That's my question. And it's always the same problem, a lack of desire to fight, a lack of desire to be confrontational, to go against the grain, to go head to head versus the cultural tide or the secular institutions or the Zionist institutions. No, our imams are signing agreements with the Zionists, peace agreements with the rabbis. Yeah, that's happening in the United States. That's how that we have. Our imams are going to Auschwitz, just like Elon Musk went. Our imams go as well. They kiss the same ring. So This is the disaster. This is what Allah says in the Quran. And obey Allah and His Messenger, and do not dispute, and thus lose courage, and then your strength would depart, and be patient. Indeed, Allah is with the patient. So again, sabr, that is being mentioned, being patiently perseverant. And don't dispute. You'll lose courage, you'll lose your resolve, you'll lose your strength. So the disputations, it's disputation in the face of a larger existential threat. That's the problem. That's the problem. So who is creating as maximum disputation, maximum argumentation in our weakest time? It's the Wahhabis. The Wahhabis, the sectarians. So how much clearer can the Quran be about our law? What's the cause of our loss of strength? What's the cause of our lack of resolve, our lack of courage? The verse is specifically saying courage. You're going to lose courage. You're going to lose strength. That's exactly what we're missing. Exactly what we're missing. So these are the reflections that I want to share with you from the Quran. I think it's very important so that we can change our condition. Okay, now let's talk about Ilhan Omar. This was a clip that I wanted to address because it's just so shocking, like what she's saying. Like, it's someone who, does she even care? So this end wokeness, this is a Zionist account.
And so the idea that this is a white nation that needs to be preserved is a fascinatingly disgusting view, because this country is one for the many. And so
she's saying that the view, like with her painted nails and her makeup and her little scarf on her head, saying, oh, this view that America is a white nation, this is disgusting. This is disgusting. America is for everyone. America is for the many. How do you think that that's going to make white Americans feel? How do you think that that makes them feel? You're not born in America. You're coming from a different country. And you're going to tell the people of that country that the country is not for you. It's actually for me. It's for me and whoever wants it. Like, so I don't understand how anyone can think of Ilhan Omar as some kind of like smart politician or someone who's going to really help the Muslim cause or going to help Muslims. All she has done her entire political career is generate maximum animosity for Muslims. Like, that's really been her purpose. She's like a agent provocateur. Like, you couldn't ask for more of an agent provocateur, controlled opposition. You couldn't ask for anyone better than Ilhan Omar, whose husband, by the way, is a Jewish, and maybe even he's a Zionist, but he's a Jewish, involved with Washington, D.C. And she comes out and says this kind of inflammatory rhetoric. Now, obviously, this is what I see from a lot of Muslims: lack of nuance, lack of sophistication. You have this kind of dichotomy that's created, where you have Muslims who are like Ilhan Omar. They have just bought hook, line, and sinker this kind of pro-immigration liberal stance, anti-white stance, anti-white American stance. That obviously generates a lot of animosity and hatred towards Muslims. And then you have the other side, people who have really drunk the Kool-Aid from white nationalists, and they say that no, Muslims have to be pro-white nationalist and anti-immigrant, and we have to be, you know, pro these kinds of narratives that we see from Nick Fuentes or from whoever. And this has caused a dichotomy. And Muslims have, the Muslims that I talk to or see on social media, they have a hard time reconciling. They have a hard time understanding, well, what should our position be as Muslims? Because on the one hand, we don't want to be racist. Racism is the worst evil. And we have to be pro-immigrant because many of us are from immigrant families. While on the other side, we recognize the kind of white nationalist argument, especially because these white nationalists are so anti-Jewish power, anti-Israel. So we recognize that and we're sympathetic to that. So clearly we have to be in that camp. And when the whites are saying that they're being genocided and they're being erased, then clearly we're sympathetic to that. So where do we stand? Like what should our position be? And it's not that complicated. It's not that complicated. Like, can we evaluate positions outside of what other people say that is correct? Outside of other people's framework for understanding the world? Can we develop our own framework? Apparently not, because we don't have the institutions to do that. We don't have the kind of think tank to do that. We don't have the kind of universities to train Muslims to think in that kind of strategic way. Unfortunately, we don't have the public intellectuals. Where are the Muslim public intellectuals that can actually articulate positions like that? We don't have anyone like that. For a very systematic reason by design. But we'll talk about that in the future. But the point being that, well, it's very easy to think that, okay, you have a white identity, you have the white Americans or the white Europeans, they do have concerns, they do have valid grievances. There is an attack on their identity. And it's part of a larger attack that also has affected Muslims, that has also attacked Muslim identity. And this is part of a liberal atomization project to take people out of a sense of communal identity with their race or their ethnicity or their group, so that they will view themselves as atomized individuals, where your primary relationship is not between you and your community, you and your family, you and your race, you and your religion. No, it's between you and the secular state, you and the nation, secular nation state. Why? So that the nation state can better control you as an atom, as a cog in their machine. If you have loyalty to your race or you have loyalty to your religion, that complicates it, or that will cause conflict where the priorities of your race or your religion are above the priorities of the nation state, the secular elite who want to control you. So this is the atomization project, the liberalization project that has been conducted for over 200 years, since the Enlightenment, since the 18th and 19th century. This is the project that has been pushed out from Europe, Western Europe. So we can recognize that that's the case, that whites are also a victim of this. But we also recognize other historical factors, that whites are a victim, but whites were also the biggest propagators of liberalism. Whites were also the biggest propagators of liberal atomization, and this system came from them, and that created a disaster of colonialism and genocide in the Muslim world that we're still suffering from today. That's still continuing to this day, with a system that was imposed on the world. An international system of human rights, supposedly an international law from the United Nations that's been imposed on the entire world. And that is a liberal system that is coming from the European white identitarian Enlightenment. We have to recognize that. That's something that we also should be sympathetic to. That's something that Ilhan Omar, perhaps that's in the back of her mind as a decolonial critique, but there is also some validity to that. So acknowledging those things allows you to be able to communicate in a way that is not creating alienation or anger or inaccuracy, falsehood. We can tell. I've had debates with white nationalists, and those white nationalists always have trouble debating me because they expect a Muslim to be a libtard, to be like Ilhan Omar, and to just say, oh, you want to preserve your race, that's racist, you're a Nazi. Like, that's what they expect. But I'm able to contextualize what is an erasure of white identity and relate it to an erasure of Muslim identity or Chinese identity or Latino identity. I'm able to contextualize it, and they then also bring in the historical facts. Like, well, there is this entire system that has been built, and that is a problem. That's the Muslim perspective. Can you empathize? Can you sympathize with the Muslim perspective? That immigration to the West from Muslims is a response to a massive injustice that has been committed by whites. And even if you personally, as a white U.S. citizen in 2025 did not contribute to that and do not approve of it, that doesn't change the reality of that system that still is in operation. So let's work together to think of a solution. Like, that's the kind of strategic thinking. That's the kind of dialogue, dialectic that we can have with others, with whites, with any other group. But what Ilhan Omar does is just inflame anger by regurgitating a line that is simply not effective. Like crying racist in 2025, crying about racism in 2025, that's not really moving the needle. Like, that's not really going to get people out of their seats in 2025. It's kind of passé. It's kind of cliche. But she's still, regurgitating these lines. But I mean, what can you expect? This is women's leadership. This is what happens when you empower leaders, women leaders. This is how they think. Yeah. So she's just a generator of animosity towards Muslims. And Zionists are taking advantage of that. Zionists are promoting her, putting out these clips. Okay. Now, I wanted to talk about our friend Geopolitical. And maybe I can just comment really quickly. I already commented about his meeting with the World Jewish Congress and the photo op. But that wasn't the only photo op that he had on his trip to the U.S. He also was sitting with David Petraeus. David Petraeus is a former general of Central Command, U.S. Central Command in the Middle East, in Afghanistan, in Iraq. He was a general during the invasions of both of those countries. He was also, for a couple of years, head of the CIA under the Obama administration. And what's significant about David Petraeus, which Geopolitical was sitting with, is that, well, let me just show you the clip first, and then we'll discuss it.
So this next one is about you personally. How are you holding up under all this pressure? Are you getting time to do some thinking? Are you getting enough sleep at night? Again, I've been there, and it is so very, very hard. And your many fans, and I am one of them, we do have worries.
Oh, you hear that? The crowd is like, oh, and then Geopolitical touches his heart. Oh, you're a fan. Oh, our love is so deep. Our love for each other is just, it's mutual. This is how Geopolitical reacts. And then there was another clip.
هو جيد أنه كنا في وقت من الأوقات في ميدان حرب وانتقلنا إلى ميدان الحوار الآن.
نعم سيدي.
Yeah, so he said that we were once in the battlefield and now we're in the field of dialogue. We were in the field of battle before, and now we're in the field of dialogue. He's chuckling to himself. It's just a bro sesh. It's just broing out with his number one fan, Petraeus, and Geopolitical. Like, this happened last week in New York. So what's the significance of this? David Petraeus, I'm telling you, he has a long military career involved with killing of Muslims in Iraq and Afghanistan. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of lives, Muslim lives, and now he's having this bro session with Geopolitical. But there's a deeper significance, and the deeper significance is that when David Petraeus was the head of the CIA, he created the Timber Sycamore program. Timber Sycamore, and you can read about it on Wikipedia, and it has all the receipts and all of the facts. It was a program that Petraeus recommended that the CIA fund and give weapons to al-Qaeda affiliates in Syria in order to take out Bashar al-Assad. And who was leading AQ in Syria at that time? It was Julani with his Nusra Front. And Nusra Front was the al-Qaeda AQ affiliate in Syria at that time. And David Petraeus is proposing to the Obama administration, we need to covertly send them money and weapons so that they can take over. They can take over Syria. So when you had this coup, or you had this blessed revolution last November and December, and within 7 days, Julani took over Damascus, took over Syria, deposed Bashar al-Assad, I said, we need to have some patience. We shouldn't get onto this Julani train, We shouldn't start praising him and saying this is a blessed revolution and we're so happy. We need to pause, because yes, while I am happy that Bashar al-Assad, this terrible tyrant who has killed so many Muslims, I'm glad that he's no longer in power. Is the replacement going to be worse? And we have to wait and see. And people at that time were saying that, look, Julani is a CIA plant. Julani is a product of Washington, D.C. And I said, look, I have my suspicions, and I put out a video showing all of the Zionists that were praising Julani. He's being interviewed on CNN with these puff pieces that are praising him. Yeah, Julani does have a terrorist past, but he's turned a new leaf. And he's a changed man. He's no longer a terrorist. He's a wise, sage, democratic leader. This is what the Zionists were saying. So I pointed that out. I said, this is very suspicious. Let's keep an eye on this. Let's not start doing live streams about the blessed revolution like these retards, like the retard compassionate imams and whoever is doing. Like, let's have some foresight. Because we've seen this script before. We've seen these revolutions, what results come from that. It's worse than what was before, usually. So let's wait and see. Now, okay, and then for the past few months, I've been more and more convinced, more and more raising the red flag. Look, what Israel is doing to the south. Look at how Israel is taking more and more land, how Israel is basically sending troops within 20 kilometers of Damascus, and they're not even being opposed. Israel is conducting raids within Syrian territory. Israel is literally bombing Damascus, military headquarters in Damascus, and Syria says nothing, does nothing, just whines about it. Meanwhile, they're having secret meetings with Israeli diplomats, with Netanyahu's government. They're secretly meeting, making deals. They're meeting with Trump. He's like, Julani's literally having photo ops with Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is saying, I really hope that they normalize with Israel. And Geopolitical is just smiling like an idiot, the cow that he is. So I've been raising the red flag, and now I think we can put it to rest. Like, he's a CIA plant. People were saying that before, and there were all kinds of indications of that before, but now it's undeniable. And this is the kind of hard power that I was talking about. Like, there's no need to hide it. He's going to sit there and smile with the biggest Zionists, with literally the former director of the CIA. What are you going to do about it? And then you still have some of these Syrians, and a lot of them, I really think they're from Tel Aviv. They're actually secretly Jewish, like that Iraqi Jew, Talha Berg. Like, he's an Iraqi Jew. And he's, from the beginning, was saying that, yeah, the Syrians need to go and ally with the United States. Like, I wonder where he got that idea from. I wonder who's been paying him. I wonder who's backing him. So the people who are still defending this, like, only if you're a spy, like only if you're an infiltrator, you're one of these $7,000 per post infiltrators who are promoting Goilani as some kind of based Syrian leader for the Ummah. He made it so clear that there's no denying it. Like, when you go and literally sit and have a bro sesh and the former head of the CIA says, I'm your biggest fan, is there any doubt remaining? Is there any doubt remaining that you are a plant? So yeah, that's Operation Timber Sycamore. And then even earlier in September, you had Goilani meeting with U.S. Central Command Commander Admiral Charles Bradley Cooper and his wife. Cooper was deployed in Iraq and Afghanistan, murdering Muslims, and in June this year, Cooper said that the U.S. must permanently maintain its military presence in Syria. So there's Cooper and his wife, and there's Goilani and his wife, you know, for a photo op. So the U.S. now has permanent military presence in Syria. Israel has permanent military presence in Syria. So, like, what more infiltration do you have to have for you to wake up and realize that you've been duped? Like, what more is needed? Like, that, the whole problem with the Middle East is that the United States has a military base in literally every single country except Iran. Every single country has a military base. You understand the implications of that? If you have a military base in your country, you're in Saudi, you're in UAE, you're Egypt, you're Turkey, wherever. If you have a military base in your country, if your country does something that the United States does not approve of, you're going to face a harsh reaction because they have all these operatives in your country. They're based in your country. Not only soldiers, but also spies. Also, intelligence officers that are spying on your leaders, gathering blackmail material on your leaders. Because they've set up base, they've set up shop in your country. So as soon as you have that base in your country, then what does that mean? Like, put two and two together. What does that mean for the independence of your country, for the sovereignty of your country? What does that mean for your country actually establishing Sharia or any kind of Islamic government? What does that mean for your country acting in the interests of Muslims globally, transnationally, as opposed to acting for the benefit of the United States and Israel? What does that mean? Do I have to spell everything out for you? As soon as you have a permanent military base in your country, it's over. It's game over. Goilani comes in, and that's the first order of business. That's the first order of business, is making sure the military base is set. It's established. It's well populated with soldiers, equipment. Syrians themselves, they have no military equipment, of course. Those were all destroyed, you know, with the Blessed Revolution back in December. All of their weapons were destroyed. They also got rid of all their chemical weapons. They promised, all these chemical weapons, the stockpile, we're going to get rid of it. Don't worry. We're going to make our country as vulnerable as possible to invasion from whoever, Israel, US, whoever. The Syrians don't have weapons, but the US is going to have a permanent military presence. That's what Admiral Charles Cooper said. Chuck said and he's sitting and taking a photo op with Geopolitical. This is a disaster, and you fell for it again. You fell for it again. All those people who are criticizing me, you can still go back and see their comments. You can still see their comments. Daniel, you don't know what you're talking about. Daniel, you don't really know the situation on the ground. You don't know Syrian history. You don't know our culture. You don't know what's actually taking place on the ground. We have all that knowledge. Like, this is the nonsense that they were telling me. Just trust the plan, they said. Yeah, we're seeing the result. All those people are silent now, by the way. All those people, they shut up. They haven't said a peep in months. The only people who are still talking are the agents and spies from Tel Aviv. The Iraqi Jew those are the people that are still yapping because they want to collect their checks. They have to still promote Julani as the blessed revolutionary leader that's going to bring Islam. Like, they don't even talk about Islam anymore. They have you noticed? They don't talk about, oh yeah, because initially that's the way that they were talking. Initially, I mean, Julani was saying first Damascus, then Jerusalem. Okay, put that aside. Put that aside. Clearly, that was just rhetoric. Clearly, he was just lying. Clearly, he was just using rhetoric to trick you gullible idiots. But then later, they were saying at least, well, he's at least going to establish Islam in the country. Obviously, it's going to be like an Islamic country. Obviously, a based Sunni Islamic, maybe not a caliphate, but at least like some semblance of Islamic government. Now they're not talking about that. Have you noticed that? Now forget about that. Like, now the bar has been continually lowered. Now we just want stability. We want some economic stability. That's all we need. Okay, if that's the standard, if that's the bar, well, you had that with Bashar al-Assad prior to the revolution, prior to the Arab Spring. Like, wasn't the whole point of the Arab Spring to depose these tyrants who were going to be influenced by outside countries? Wasn't that the whole purpose of deposing Bashar al-Assad? So now you've just gone back to square one. You've gone back to square zero, actually. But you're pitching that and selling that like it's a big win. So it's quite pathetic. It's quite pathetic. And here's another spy. Like, here's Richard Moore, the outgoing chief of the British MI6 spy agency, bragging about working with Geopolitical to bring the UK back into Syria. He said, we sourced, quote, we sourced intelligence on Sudan in hours. We continue to counter terror emanating from Afghanistan, and having forged a relationship with HTS, Julani's HTS, a year or two before they toppled Bashar. So that means back in 2022 or 2023, they were working with British intelligence. Julani was. We forged a path for the UK government to return to the country within weeks. Mission accomplished, guys. You know, that's what really the Blessed Revolution was about from the beginning. Making sure we can get the US and the UK back in Syria. That's really the, mission accomplished. We did it. We did it, guys. Okay. So that's our show. 2-hour show, covered a lot of ground. I want to see what you think. So let's look at the super chats. Thank you, NVIDIA, satanic, genocidal, apartheid state. Vas Mi says, Assalamu alaikum, akhi. Wa alaikum assalam. Good to see you again. Jazakallah khair. Wa iyakum. SYA, thank you, brother, for your generous super chat. Wa alaikum assalam. May Allah reward you. Some of your debates have gone viral in a good way on Instagram. Very nice to see. Expecting a new child. Please keep in dua. That's good. I'm not on Instagram. I mean, we have a channel. There's a MuslimSkeptic channel on Instagram. But I don't personally have an Instagram. But good to see that, or good to know that the debates are going viral, the clips. Alhamdulillah. And mashallah, congratulations, Mabruk, on a new child. May Allah bless him, make him healthy, and make him a strong believer, min as-salihin, and bless his parents. Ameen. I encourage everyone also in the chat and viewers to make dua for his child, healthy child, inshallah, bi'ithnillah, and future leader for the ummah. Andros, thank you for your super chat. No message. Like a Traveler, thank you, bro, for your super chat. Pay no mind to anyone who is upset you don't maintain a regular streaming schedule. They're looking for entertainment. May Allah put barakah in your work. Thank you. That's for your support, brother. Yeah, I mean, regular streaming schedule. I don't know, like how much of a demand is there, or interest is for that. Like if I stream every day, I mean, it's possible to do, but again, I have to like delay projects. And what kind of show do you want? Like, tell me, let me know. And, you know, I can try to see what I can do. Like there's content, there's definitely things to talk about every day. There's news items every day that are relevant and important for Muslims. And is the best way to talk about that through a stream? Is it through Twitter or Telegram or what? So if you have a comment on that, leave it in the chat or in the comment section. But, you know, I think that having a show once, twice, 3 times a week, maybe I need to have a set schedule. I don't know. Let me know what you think. But I appreciate like a Traveler showing support. Yeah, I mean, if I'm not streaming regularly, it's because I'm working on other major projects. And sometimes that takes time out of being able to stream on a daily basis. Ridvan says, why is it that when most of these individuals shave their beards and change their dressing style as sunnah, they are leaving Wahhabism, Ghuilani, and Yasser Qadi? Yeah, it's interesting. Like you have Ghuilani, his beard is getting shorter and shorter. Yasser Qadi, also his beard has gotten shorter since his Madkhali days. So it's like a pipeline, the Wahhabi to liberal pipeline. The Wahhabi to, you know, visiting Auschwitz pipeline. Set pattern. Baron says, we are the weakest ummah in our history, but we're still by far the strongest religion with values, practicing brotherhood, conversions, etc. Yes, that's true. Last Word says, these last couple of years led me to conclude Arabs are ultimately cowards with some exception. All Arab nations are the heart of Wahan. When Arab with testicular fortitude arises, they backstab him. Yeah, I mean, the big exception are the Palestinians. The Palestinians are Arab. Look at what they're doing. They're the leaders of the Ummah. And they're the bravest and most courageous. And they're leading. So we shouldn't paint all Arabs with the same brush. But are there problems amongst Arabs? There are problems amongst every ethnic Muslim group. There are problems with Iranians. There are problems with South Asians, Southeast Asians, Africans, European Muslims. Yeah, there's a lot of criticism to go around, but you're right. We have to have testicular fortitude. That is a big problem. Zaid says, politics aside, Sunnis don't curse Ahlul Bayt. Shia lay people must stop cursing the Sahaba and mothers of the believers. That would help unify us. Yeah, I mean, which Shia are you seeing that are cursing the Sahaba? Do you mean like the paid bots and agents from Tel Aviv that are posing as Shia? Like, do you mean them? So they're always going to be these bots on social media that are pretending to be Shia and cursing the Sahaba. They're always going to be there. You understand that that Tel Aviv realizes that this is a point of sensitivity. And then when you have Shia leadership in Iran, like Khamenei himself, and Sistani and all of their top scholars and leaders saying it is haram to curse the Sahaba and the mothers of the believers. It is haram to curse them, even in private. Like, that's the fatwa that has been issued. You're still going to be railed. You're still going to be angered and enraged because some random Twitter account curses the Sahaba. Israel knows that. Israel knows that. So you have to be smart enough to recognize that this is a psyop. This is a psyop, and it's deliberately being used to prevent you from allying with Shia, to keep Muslims divided. Can you recognize the psyop? Are you smart enough, or are you going to be outsmarted by these Jews in Tel Aviv? It's a question. Thoughts on Ellison buying TikTok and Paramount? We literally talked about it earlier in the show. Arthur, thank you for your super chat. Indeed, Allah does not change the condition of a people until they change what is in themselves. Yes, from the Quran, absolutely. This is what we're talking about. We have to change our internal condition if we want leaders, if we want the Imam Mahdi to come. And I asked this before. You're waiting for Imam Mahdi to come. What are you doing to ensure that you're going to be following Imam Mahdi when he comes? It's not guaranteed. Imam Mahdi might come and you might say he doesn't have the right aqidah. You might say, oh, actually, he's not noble enough, or he is not in the right madhab or the right manhaj. How do you know that you're going to follow the Mahdi when he comes? The Mahdi might be a fitna for you. The Mahdi coming might be a fitna because you are going to oppose him. Have you ever thought of that? Have you ever realized that the big opposition that the Mahdi is going to face initially is from other Muslims? Did you not recognize that? Sam, thank you for your super chat. No comment. Muhtad says, or is quoting the Bible, 1 Samuel 15:24. Saul transgressed commandments of Allah because he feared people and obeyed them, which led to him being replaced by Dawood alayhi salam. Yeah, that's from the Bible. That's not from the Quran. Arsalan, thoughts on countries that signed on the 20-point Gaza plan? Yeah, we didn't get time to get into the peace plan, but the plan that was suggested initially by Trump, you had a lot of countries sign on to it. And I mean, this is not a surprise. Like, a lot of these countries, they want to just move on from the situation in Palestine. They want the war to stop because it's causing a domestic crisis for them. It's preventing them from getting on with their economic plans to normalize more and more with Israel. So this is cutting into their bottom line, their pockets. So they want the war to stop. They don't actually care about the wider agenda that Israel has to take over the entire region. They either don't care about it or they're not taking it seriously enough. So they're going to accept this 20-point plan from Trump, which the crux of the plan is that Hamas has to disarm. Hamas has to disarm. They have to give up all their hostages, and they have to basically surrender to Israel. And Israel has to have a retreat to certain borders that are still within Gaza, but it's like a staged retreat. Like, they're going to move back to a buffer zone, and then Hamas has to completely disarm. And so you had countries sign on to that, and then Israel actually at the last minute changed the plan and made it worse, so that there is no retreat, there is no moving outside of Gaza. There's going to be permanent occupation. So the plan went from terrible to even worse. And those countries that initially signed on, they were upset and angry that why did the plan change? So, I mean, the whole point of the plan, we know it. We've seen that Israel doesn't abide, and the U.S. doesn't abide by any kind of peace agreement. When Trump took office, there was already a ceasefire agreement that Israel violated almost immediately. So they just want an excuse to say that, well, Hamas is rejecting our peace plan, so therefore we're justified in doing whatever we want. They're going to do whatever they want regardless. So this is a distraction. Like this, the idea of a peace plan is a complete distraction. We already know what Israel is going to do. Israel is not going to agree to any kind of retreat or moving out of Gaza now that they've occupied. They want to permanently occupy, and in their minds, they've paid the price of 2 years of genocide. They've already paid the price in the court of public opinion. They've become a pariah state, and so that's the price that they've paid. In return, they want Gaza. They want not only Gaza, they want the West Bank as well. That's the only way that'll be worth it. So they're not going to move to any buffer zone. They're not going to agree to any ceasefire. They're going to ethnically cleanse and forcibly transfer all of the Palestinians. And who's going to stop them? Who's going to stop them? These Muslim countries, if they think that a peace plan or a ceasefire agreement is going to stop what Israel is going to do, they're stupider than I thought. They're more deluded than I thought, or they're more complicit than I thought. Zaid, thank you for your super chat. Zaid says, suspending judgment for a second, is there any conceivable world in which Shara is actually the good guy? And if so, what case could be made for him? Yeah, if we're in the realm of fantasy, if we're in the realm of imagination, like, is it metaphysically possible? Like, is it metaphysically possible that Shara Guilani is actually a good guy? Like, yeah, I'm sure it's possible, but what about the actual empirical facts before us? Like, why do we need to engage in this kind of fantasy? Like, what kind of attachment do you have emotionally that you need to consider that, well, possibly, he's possibly a good guy? After he's been slapping you in the face. And that's really what he's done, like, to his supporters. Like, he could have been more discreet and not engage in like photo ops, meeting with Petraeus, meeting with Lauder, the head of the World Jewish Congress, meeting with Trump, meeting with all of these figures. He could have been more discreet. He could have made it easier for his fans to stomach the kinds of things that he's doing to the country. But he wants to make it very clear that he doesn't care about you. He wants to make it very clear that he is not interested in appeasing you or to giving this act of like an Islamic leader. He's shown, like, and I asked this question, like, okay, Guilani is meeting with all these Zionists and heads of the CIA. Did he meet with any Palestinian group? Did he meet with any kind of Palestinian organization or activist group? Like maybe Mahmoud Khalil, the Palestinian activist at Columbia, grad student at Columbia that is being deported. Even though he has a valid green card, he's being deported for criticizing Israel. It would be amazing if Ahmad Shara met with Mahmoud Khalil in a show of solidarity. That would be amazing. Did he do that? No. Why? Does his handlers not allow him to do even the most basic amount of advocacy for Palestine? Fine, he can't go and invade Palestine or invade Israel or get to Tel Aviv or get to Jerusalem. Fine, he can't do that, even though that's what he said he was going to do. That's what he promised. Fine, that's impractical. Can he actually show solidarity with Palestine, or is that not allowed either? Like that's the level of control over Guilani, that he can't even wave a Palestinian flag. And people are pointing out that he's actually arresting Palestinian protesters, pro-Palestine protesters in Idlib, in Syria. He's actually arresting them. So, like, yeah, why do you have an emotional attachment? And that's the thing that I don't understand with a lot of Muslims, that it's like, can we say it's like a third world mindset? it's a worshiping a personality, like the cult of personality. Like you have an emotional attachment with Jolani because you fell for a psyop and now you're clinging to that. Let it go. Let it go. Like let the facts hit you in the face and wake you up. You have to evaluate things objectively. That's the problem. When you allow emotions to control your decision making and your thoughts, that's when you get in trouble. Haroon says, why do influencers now try to become a sheikh without even learning an ounce of proper ilm from pious ulama in the madaris, and then go on to throw mushrik kafir claims left and right? Do they not fear Allah in the last day when they will be questioned? Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Like, you have people going on social media takfiring. Like, they're just takfiring people, takfiring left and right. And a lot of them, they're purely ignorant, and that's been demonstrated over and over again. Like, I don't think that to be a social media influencer, you have to be a sheikh, but you do need a minimum amount of knowledge. And depending on what you're saying on social media, that knowledge will then have to increase. Like, if you want to start talking about takfir, what is the basis for that? You can't just be some Joe Schmo who maybe has taken a class on tajweed at most, and you can barely like read the Quran. Like, that's the level of some of these influencers and the Wahhabis, like amongst the Wahhabis and others. If you're going to start talking about other issues that require knowledge, then obviously you have to have that knowledge. You have to study with qualified people. But if you're just calling to Islam, you're just doing basic dawah, you don't need to be a sheikh, but you need to have basic knowledge. If you're engaged in debates, you need to have much more knowledge. Daniel is among the rare men with a glorious beard. Okay, that's the first time someone has complimented me on my beard. Usually I'm getting attacked for my beard as being patchy and scraggly. So thank you, and that's a rare compliment. I'll take it. I'll take the compliment on my beard. Yeah. If AI improves, like maybe I can have like an AI filter or AI to like make my beard more robust, you know. Just get like a very thick, robust beard. And I don't trim my beard at all. Like, is that obvious? Like, I don't trim my beard. So it's like a fist length. A fist length beard. Like, it's barely a fist length. You can see the whispers of the beard. But it's not because I like trim it to be a fist length. It doesn't grow. It doesn't grow longer than this. So I thought beards, if you just don't cut them, they're going to grow more and more and more. But my beard, I haven't cut it or trimmed it in any way for maybe 8 years. And this is just the length that it is. Brother, consider taking video calls. Okay, I'm sure I'll do that. We need to see video of everyone. Fabio, thank you for your super chat. Mesa says, please give a shout out to Colombian President Petro. For what reason do I shout him out? I don't know. I haven't followed the news. Did he do something for Palestine? Okay, guys, any regular chat, I'll look in the regular chat for your comments as well. Bonsai beard. Dr. Sebastian says I have a bonsai beard. H says micro needling with castor oil for the beard. What's micro needling? I know castor oil, people say it like has all these benefits to rub on your skin. Should I rub it on my beard? Castor oil, get a nice greasy beard. Yeah, Labib says round 2. I didn't talk about much. I commented a little bit about Iran, but we didn't have time to get into it in depth. But I think the more important thing with Iran is just how is the Muslims of the world going to react? Is it going to be the same as the previous 12-day war where you have a lot of Muslims that are just attacking Iran, siding with Israel? Arthur says, I have beard struggles too. Axmis says, hop on minoxidil. Like Rogaine for the beard. Fabio also says, I would suggest concentrating more on the US, the mandator and funder, than on its proxy state, Israel. No, the US is the proxy state of Israel. The US is under the control and dictates of Israel, not vice versa. I don't know why people have this. I'm starting to think it's like a psyop. Like, do you really think that the US is dictating to Netanyahu what to do? Then why does Netanyahu keep going against what Trump is declaring? Like, Trump wanted to declare a ceasefire as a big political victory as soon as he took office. What does Netanyahu do? He violates the ceasefire immediately. He violates, despite the interests of Trump, despite the interests of the US. So the fact that Netanyahu can just do as he pleases, what does that tell you about his power level compared to that of Trump, compared to that of the United States? Who's really the proxy? Let's think about that for a second. Collagen induction therapy? What is that? I've never even heard of that. These are like advanced techniques. I have to like travel to Switzerland and like pay $20,000 for like a collagen therapy for my beard for cosmetic reasons. Brother, you don't shave the northern portion of your beard, north and south. I mean, there's like just a couple of hairs here that I might shave, but no, this is not, there's nothing growing here. That's the problem. You think I'm shaving it? No, I'm not shaving it. I wish it would grow, that's what I, can. I mean, I don't wish. I'm happy. Allah created me like this. Allah didn't want me to have hair growing here. So I'm content with what Allah has decreed. But no, I'm not shaving it. Why do you generalize all so-called Wahhabis and not specifically Madakhila as the issue? We've talked about this. As long as you take Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab as your sheikh or Shaykh al-Islam, or you accept his ideas, then you're a Wahhabi. Because his ideas are so deviant and so poisonous, and it's not just the Madkhalis who do this. Madkhalism is one group of Wahhabis that are cancerous, but there are others. So, sorry to burst your bubble, but it's not just the Madkhalis. Madkhalis are just one group. Microneedling is pricking needles into your skin, and then the skin produces collagen in response to the injuries. This is supposed to get your hair to grow? That's like acupuncture. And then Hubert says microneedling can give you a scar. So the chat has a difference of opinion. Yeah. All right, guys. Really appreciate all of your super chats and comments. I think I'm gonna close the stream now. But it was good getting back on Haqiqatjou. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, a reminder, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to our newsletter. The link for the newsletter is down below. Also, there is a link to our marriage retreat happening in December. If you are married, if you are single, if you are divorced, you want to understand what traditional Islamic marriage is according to the Quran and Sunnah. You're tired of simping. You're tired of feminism. You want to get back to a healthy, sound, strong marriage and actually experience that love and that mercy that Allah mentions in Surah Rum in the Quran. Come to our marriage retreat, inshallah, taught by myself and my wife, Khalid. We're going to co-teach it. There's also going to be childcare there. So if you have kids, you can bring them as well. And inshallah, it's going to be a really beneficial, beautiful retreat, 4 days in Turkey. Also, Debate Con, the conference in November. If you want to be there in Nashville in person, help out so that there are some Muslims in the audience. It's not just the all-Christian, all-atheist audience. We want some Muslims there. The link is in the description below. Come support your Muslim brother. It's in Nashville, mid-November. Debate Con, link in the description below. Appreciate everyone watching the show. Inshallah, we'll have a show probably when Israel attacks Iran. That's going to happen probably in the next few days. That's probably going to be the next show, inshallah. Allahu Alam, may Allah protect all the Muslims. May Allah give victory to the Palestinians and all the supporters and all the followers of the Palestinians in the Ummah. Ameen Ya Rabbil Alameen. And we will catch you, inshallah, on the next Haqiqatjou. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.